Shalom. Before I get started, I want to give all glory, honor, and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at GMS. Peace, honor, and respect to you brothers that's out there laboring, edifying, rightly dividing the word in truth and sincerity. And shalom to you believers out there, the Aki and Wa Akwath. And what I want to get into with this lesson, I feel good out here this morning. Just want to get out here and get up kind of in nature and talk about discipline. As you can see, I got right here the definition of discipline. It says the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. And it's so funny because was kind of meditating on this lesson since yesterday, right? So I'm like, let me look up the word discipline. And I seen this and I thought about how, a lot of the reason why us Israelites is in the condition we are in is due to lack of discipline. Because it say right here, the practice of training people to obey. And that's what the Heavenly Father, when he gave us the laws, all right, through Moses, he wanted us to what? Obey his command, obey his rules, man. Use that as a code of behavior. But now we're in the punishment, all right, because of disobedience. Now let's look at some of these similar words. It says control, regulation, direction, order. It say instruction. You see where it say instruction? And I was thinking about this lesson because I know, coming out the world and coming into the truth, further along you go on, you try to have more discipline because you understand discipline. And see, the thing about discipline is it leads to obedience. That's the thing discipline does. It leads to obedience. And one thing I'm learning about discipline is just it can hurt, and you know what I mean, like, because we all had habits, or you be doing, we in this flesh, man, and discipline, it takes you. I see the word regimen, all right. I see exercise, teaching, routine. These words, when you're dealing with discipline, it takes time, man. All right. You somewhat have to learn how to be disciplined. Teach yourself. You have to go through these rigorous regimens of, not fulfilling the lustfulness, desires of the flesh. But one thing about discipline, it's ultimately better for you. Like when let's say you become more disciplined in your diet. All right, you might love eating Chick-fil-A all the time or all these processed foods, sweets. And when you cut them, it hurts. That's what I mean by the pain, by the hurt, And I don't mean pain like you getting punched in the face, but y'all get what I'm saying. It hurts, but ultimately you feel better. All right, you might have, like me recently, I've been giving myself a bedtime, because sometimes I can be a night owl. But I've been saying, like, I'm going to go to sleep earlier so I can get up earlier. That's why I'm able to do, this morning lesson. And ultimately, it feels better because normally when I get up, I got to go to work. But one thing I noticed about getting up early, the air is, it tends to seem a little bit more cleaner because you don't have as many people out. You don't have as many cars out. It feel good outside before the sun just come out and start, beaming on your back. It just ultimately, it's good to get up early, and it feel like you get more of your day versus you stay up late, 2, 3 in the morning, then you wake up 12, 1 o'clock or what have you. And then the day is, and you get into that routine. So again, discipline ultimately, especially when you first starting out, it can hurt. It can take time. And I mean, you're not going to be perfect. We're not perfect. But it's ultimately better for you. And again, discipline leads to obedience. So I want to go to my first scripture, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. It says, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So, it's things that you can do that's lawful, but too much of anything is bad. Too much of good things are bad. If you drink too much water, that's bad for you. You see what I'm saying? So again, you can, it's certain things that us brothers and sisters can do that's lawful, but it might not be expedient. Okay? And one thing about it, hold on, just when I'm doing the lesson, you got these little demons that want to come around. But again, and that's the way it works a lot of times, But again, everything is not expedient for us to do. Okay, because again, we in this flesh, and you can drink wine, and you can even have strong drink, but too much of it is what? Would it be expedient? No. Is it lawful to drink wine? Yes. Is it good to drink wine to every day in excess? No. All right, so learning a discipline. You might have was a person that loved to drink. Well, now coming into the truth, you're learning to cut down. Like me, I used to smoke, cigarettes, you smoke weed, and I stopped smoking cigarettes way before I came into the truth. But I used to smoke weed, just keeping it real. And when I came into the truth, I cut it off. You know what I'm saying? That was one of the things that I forced myself. Was through the power and the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I cut it off because I felt condemned. When I first came in, like I was new, I was still kind of smoking. But then after a while, I was like, nah, I can't be doing this. I kept reading scriptures. I kept listening to brother's video. And ultimately, the Lord put that spirit on me to quit. You know what I'm saying? He gave me that discipline. Okay, so now I want to go to, matter of fact, let's just go to it. Because when you go to Romans, the 7th chapter, right, Paul goes in to these things. Because again, we in this flesh, so we slip. You know what I'm saying? We slip. So I want to get Romans chapter 7. It says, starting at verse 9, for I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. And the commandment which was ordained a life I found to be unto death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? God forbid. But sin that is might appear sin, worketh death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceeding sinful. All right. So here we go. We get into the point, and I want to read this in the NLT, verse 14. It says, "So the trouble is not with the law, for it is spiritual and good." So we know the law is spiritual and good. The trouble is with me, for I am all too human, a slave to sin. Right, and that's the thing about it. We've been made. Matter of fact, let's go to the next chapter, because when you go to Romans 8, and this the condition of the battle, because we was made like that. Hold on, bear with me, because he's smoking now. Let me get away. Bear with me 1 second. It's so funny. I caught the train over to this park, and this lady, she was shouting and shouting, right? And I was just thinking about in the scriptures, Legion, all of the demons. She was just cussing, fussing, and pounding on her chest, and I just thought about, like, wow, that's Legion right there. That's Legion actually right here on this train, But the demons come out, so as soon as I started doing the lesson, he come over here, and now he started blowing the blunt. So let me get away. And that's funny. That's spiritual, because I was just talking about how I quit smoking. And then he came over here, and he started smoking. But it's cool. It's a good little trail out here I want to hit. So continuing on with the lesson, when again we in this flesh, so we gonna go off. All right, but discipline, through discipline, it helps us go off less. Again, discipline leads to what? Obedience. All right, and the more disciplined we become, the more obedient I feel like you become. So Romans 8:20, for the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who has subjected the same in hope. So the Lord made us this way. It's always a fight. Okay, it's a fight between the good and the evil. It's a fight between the lust of the flesh versus the spirit. Okay, who wants to do good? And let's go back to Romans 7, because Apostle Paul gonna go into this. And I remember when I first read this chapter, I was like, wow, I was just amazed because, again, that this is the real condition of the battle. But you're thinking about, a great man like the Apostle Paul, he going through it. So how much more us? You know what I'm saying? You think about all the apostles, all the great works they did, and you like, wow, they going through some of the same things that we go through, But again, they were still humans. All right, they just had a great task at hand. So continuing on, I was at in Romans 7 in the NLT. In verse 15, it says, I don't really understand myself, for I want to do what is right, but I don't do it. Instead, I do what I hate. Yeah, giving in to those temptations of the lustful flesh. Verse 16, but if I know that what I'm doing is wrong, this shows that I agree that the law is good, right? So when you have that conscience, because in the world, we didn't really have that conscience like that, like we do now. Of course you had certain things, not to kill a baby or, just be doing something crazy, but it's a lot of other things that we have developed a conscience about, since coming into this truth that we didn't have. Okay. Verse 17, it says, so I am not the one doing wrong. It is sin living in me that does it. And I know that nothing good lives in me, that is in my sinful nature. I want to do what is right, but I can't. I want to do what is good, but I don't. I don't want to do what is wrong, but I do it anyway. Again, that war between flesh and spirit. What the scripture say? Let me get that. Let me get it. Yup, Matthew 26:41. It says, wait, let me see what Mark say. Yup, Matthew 26:41. It says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And that's so true, because there's certain things that, you want to abstain from. And sometimes, you just fall victim to the flesh. That's the condition. So back in Romans 7 in the NLT, verse 20, it says, but if I do what I don't want to do, I'm not really the one doing wrong. It is sin living in me that does it. I have discovered this principle of life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. I love God's law with all my heart, but there is another power within me that is at war with my mind. This power makes me a slave to the sin that is still within me. Yes. And this is where we got to develop that discipline to combat the power of that sin, that power of that evil. Okay. And the scriptures give us blueprints to combat that. Why? Because Yahweh Shem Yahushua know our nature. Okay. They know, the Heavenly Father know what he put in us. It's a fight. You have up, you have down, you have left, you have right, you have dark, you have light, you have day, you have night. Okay. It's always a fight. Hot, cold. Okay. Continuing on in verse 24 says, "Oh, what a miserable person I am." See? In the KJV it say, "Oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" And who is that? Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai is gonna deliver us. Okay, when we get those new bodies, man, we not gonna go off. That's why it's not gonna be the Israelites not gonna die, because we not gonna sin. And see, we always gonna do what's right. Verse 25 it says, "Thank the Most High. The answer is Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach our Lord." So you see how it is. In my mind, I really want to obey God's law, but because of my sinful nature, I'm a slave to sin. And brothers and sisters, we have to make sure we're not slaves to sin. Okay? But right here, we get what the context that Apostle Paul was putting it in, because ultimately, you know, in this flesh, you're not just going to be perfect. But discipline is the key, because again, discipline leads to obedience. Let me get my next scripture, 12:21. So now let me, Salakia. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, because there's so many scriptures basically on taking the Lord's instruction, going into discipline. Let's get one of my favorites, Wisdom of Solomon 6, starting at verse 12. It says, "Wisdom is glorious and never fadeth away. Yes, she is easily seen of them that love her, and found of such as seek her. She preventeth them that desire her, and making herself first known unto them. Whoso seeketh her early shall have no great travail, for he shall find her sitting at his doors. To think therefore upon her is perfection of wisdom, and whoso watcheth for her shall quickly be without care." Okay? And that just had me thinking about this scripture, I believe in Psalms, where it says, just paraphrasing, where he'd keep those in perfect peace whose mind is on thee. Just paraphrasing. But continuing on, verse 16, it says, "For she goeth about seeking such as are worthy of her, showeth herself favorably unto them in the ways, and meeteth them in every thought. For the very true beginning of her is the desire of discipline." Yes, that's another thing that I'm learning. When you are more disciplined, you are able to produce in this ministry better, versus being committed, I ain't gonna say committed, versus doing too many things in the flesh. That's one thing I have learned. I remember when I first came in, brothers was saying this, and I really didn't understand until years down the line, like what brothers meant about how when you sow more to the spirit, you reap more in the spirit, and how you sow more in the flesh, you reap more in the flesh. And that is so true. That is something that I had to learn through trial and error, man. And not saying I got it all, but I'm just saying I get it. Like, wow, you know, when I'm zoned in, reading, studying, listen to the videos, using more discipline, guess what? I have more lessons on my mind. I'm able to come up with lessons quicker, and I get more lessons. And ultimately, I'm just more in the spirit, man. I feel better. You know what I'm saying? So continuing on, I'm going to read verse 17 again. "For the very true beginning of her is the desire of discipline, and the care of discipline is love. And love is keeping her laws, and the giving heed unto her laws is the assurance of incorruption." Man, this is so very, very true. All right. "And the incorruption make us near to the Most High." Right. Again, sowing to the spirit, you reap more in the spirit. That's like fasting. Okay, fasting, prayer, things of that nature. Yeah, them lessons, they come easier. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure brothers can attest to that, you know? Like verses where you just been in the flesh, and then you trying to get something and you trying to figure it out. But then, you might have been praying, been reading, been studying, and just in this zone, and then lessons be coming, man. You be remembering scriptures easier. You be listening to a video, and then brothers be bringing it out, and then you be having precepts in your mind to back them up. You know what I'm saying? Verse 20, it says, therefore the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom. That's right. So discipline leads to obedience, okay? And obedience basically can lead you to salvation, to getting the kingdom. It's all predestined, but this is the blueprint. Discipline. Discipline is one of the blueprints to being near Yahweh Shem Yahushua, because it leads to obedience. And the Lord loves somebody. You can know a million precepts, but if you ain't obedient, then it's gonna be like, nah. The Lord, you know what I'm saying, or rather deal with somebody that's more obedient and know 3 precepts versus somebody that know 30 precepts and is disobedient. Okay, verse 21, if your delight be then in thrones and scepters, O ye kings of the people, honor wisdom that ye may reign forevermore. And what wisdom is that? Wisdom in the knowledge of the scriptures. And once you know what I'm saying, get the wisdom and the knowledge of the scriptures, which that wisdom and knowledge is ever learning. You're just not going to read the scriptures and then, I got it all. But what I'm saying is, when you be studying, when you listening to the videos, when you reading and things of that nature, it teaches you to be disciplined, which leads to obedience. Again, let me see. Now, before I close out, I want to get this account of discipline. All right, our forefather Daniel. Let's go to the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 1. Let me see if I wrote it down, because I jotted. Okay. I want to go to Daniel chapter 1, starting at verse 1. It says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Joachim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Joachim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of the Most High, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning and knowledge and understanding science, and such as had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning of the tongue of the Chaldeans. All right. So we already know our forefather Daniel. He was he was one of them children with no blemish, man. He had that. He was getting, could interpret the dreams. He was, a man of the Lord. And guess what? Part of that, a reason of that, Daniel used discipline. Let's get it. Verse 5, and the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. So the kings had a nice spread. He had some pork up in there. Probably had some ham, all types of stuff. He had the wine, the yayin, all of that. Daniel knew was going to be able to get, because it was the king's meat. The king was eat, better than everybody else, but he gave it to them. Verse 6, now among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. All right, the 3 holy children, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat. He showed that discipline, because Daniel could have easily been eating, all of the good choice hams and whatever pork. You know some pork in that diet. You already know. All right, right along with everything else. But what Daniel do? Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So Daniel showed discipline, which ultimately was obedience. Because why Daniel turned down the king's meat? Because a lot of that food was against the Levitical diet. See what I'm saying? So it probably looked good, smelled good. Okay, you know it tastes good, but Daniel was like, nah, that right there, that's going against the Levitical diet. Is wine going against the Levitical? No, but Daniel was showing discipline, okay, which ultimately led to obedience, all right, which ultimately that obedience lead to the favor of the Most High, man, okay? And that's why Daniel ultimately, had rank even in captivity. Okay? He had rank in captivity. Picture that. Okay? I mean, Jake, today we still in our captivity, and you got a lot of Jakes that have certain ranks. You know what I'm saying? Because we are the Lord's people. But, I just wanted to bring that out, just working on discipline. I'm working on it myself. I'm pretty sure you brothers and sisters out there is working on your discipline. So, Lord willing, this is edifying to the next lesson. Shalom.